Start.
You can start.
All right. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:30. And for everybody, open space. Citizens Advisory Committee. Can you please call the roll?
Erin Gill, not present. Frank Kinsella, not present. Robert Sipple, not present. Allison Falwell. Here. Lauren Lewis, not present. Lisana Dominguez. Here. Raj Banat.
Here.
Justin Fields.
Here.
Dan Kenny, not present. Steve Mink.
Here.
Lonnie Wong Bassett. She is here. I will mark her as present. Mayor Burton. Here. Ed Von Rennen.
Here.
Joe Henwood.
Here. Thank you very much. Are there any public comments at this point in time?
There none.
There are none. Okay, moving on, approval of the minutes. Hopefully everybody has a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the minutes.
Second. Moved and seconded. Can we proceed with the vote, please?
Allison Falwell.
Abstain.
Lisana Dominguez.
Abstain.
Raj Banat.
Abstain.
Justin Fields.
Aye.
Steve Mink.
Aye.
Lonnie Wong Bassett. Oh, I'm right here. Mayor Burton. Aye. Ed Von Rennen.
Aye.
Joe Henwood.
Aye. Very good. Opening report. We have a new member on our committee, Lisana Dominguez. Welcome, representing District 6. Would you like to introduce yourself now, or you can do it later at the end of the meeting? We have an opportunity for all of the committee members to talk about whatever's going on with their lives or what they're interested in or what they're doing. You can either talk now or you can talk then. I will leave it up to you. I don't want to put you on the spot. Later is fine. Okay. Well, welcome. There were also two other applicants for an at-large position. The names off the top of my head, you know their names, Carolyn?
Yes, one applicant is Beth Fricksdale, who is present. She's here attending the
Welcome.
meeting. And the other applicant was Mary Patterson.
And there are two for one position, so the board will be deciding on that at the February meeting, one of their February meetings. I understand they're both highly qualified, so they weren't. They wanted a little more time to evaluate, which is actually quite nice that we have that much interest by qualified people. All right. First item on the agenda: election of officers, chairperson and vice chairperson. Every year in January, we do that, so I will entertain any motions for chairperson. Anybody?
I'd like to nominate myself as chairperson for the board. This is Mayor Burton. I've been on the board since 2021. And would like to have a chance to bring some more leadership skills for myself and Open Space Authority, and maybe just hear what the community has to say and bring more people hiking into our trails. So I'm putting my name in the hat. Thank you.
I'll second.
What? No, she's.
That is your interview.
I can make the other one.
Are there any more nominations? Okay. Proceed with the vote then.
Allison Falwell. Aye. Lisana Dominguez. Aye. Raj Banat.
Aye.
Justin Fields.
Aye.
Steve Mink.
Aye.
Lonnie Wong Bassett. Aye. Mayor Burton,
Aye.
Ed Von Rennen,
Aye.
Joe Henwood.
Aye.
Would you like to proceed with vice chair then?
Oh, yeah, please.
Okay, before I hand over the gavel, or do I finish the meeting?
No, I think our new chair assumes office immediately.
Do you want me to do the vice chair, or do you want me to just hand it over right
I
now?
think Mayor would, yeah.
I'll do vice
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah.
Oh, my
I love it. I know, I don't like that.
Great speech. All right, thank you so much. All right, well, hello, everyone. My name is Mary Burton. I am now your new chair of the Open Space Authority Citizens Advisory Committee. Thank you so much for your votes and your nominations. I look forward to serving in this capacity. I'm a little nervous. I don't quite get nervous at these meetings like this, but I'm excited for this next opportunity. And thank you so much for your vote of confidence in my leadership. Caroline, I'm going to look to you for help for what I need to do.
Absolutely.
And then next meeting I'll be more prepared.
No problem. There is a little script right there to kind of help guide you through what to say during each item.
Okay, so.
For this particular item, you would want to open the floor to motion to select the vice chair.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the floor to a motion to elect the vice chair.
I'd like to make a motion for Lonnie Wong-Bissett. Have Laurie.
I
as
second,
Vice chair.
and I'd like to second that. Do I call a vote now?
We can take up to 3 nominations.
All right, well, it looks as if we don't have any other nominations, so I will make a motion for someone to make a motion. Or do I make the motion and someone seconds it?
So Steve made the motion, and then I
I
believe,
seconded it,
Mayor seconded, yes,
so then we vote.
we vote. Give me 1 second to get this working. Okay, now I'm ready. Allison Falwell.
Aye.
Lisana Dominguez. Raj Banat.
Aye.
Justin Fields.
Aye.
Steve Mink.
Aye.
Lonnie Wong-Bissett.
Aye.
Mayor Burton.
Aye.
Ed Von Rennen.
Aye.
Joe Henwood.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Sorry, I have to move too. I don't, this is very bright over here. It's like moving to the front of the class. I'm very.
Oh, also, and before we move on completely, do you want to ask if there's any public comments?
Yes, are there any public comments?
You're next.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Are we on to committee business or opening or, oh, just kidding. Receive the presentation on new Open Space Authority website from Charlotte Grant and Anna Marie Pillon. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm actually not Charlotte Graham. I'm Megan Dreger, Conservation and Strategic Partnerships Manager. Charlotte unfortunately couldn't attend with us tonight, so I just wanted to introduce Anna Marie. Anna Marie is going to give the presentation, but before she does, I wanted to acknowledge her exceptional work on this project. The website is crucial to our communication with the public, and is possibly the most important connection that we have to our audiences, so it deserves a lot of careful consideration. Anna Marie's leadership in getting our website redesigned has been really exceptional. The website is something that touches every one of us, the folks who interact with us, all of the staff members. It was important for her to receive and integrate inputs from everyone. That's staff. She came to the CAC, to the board, and a user experience audit from consultants. The list goes on, and I'm sure she can talk more about it, but how important that was to pull it all together. And she really demonstrated her excellent project management skills to bring everything together like that, or what Mark Landgraf would call her extreme collaboration, plus her wonderful creativity to make this project happen on time and under budget. So I wanted to express our sincere gratitude for Anna Marie for her dedication and success of this project, and I'll turn it over to her to talk about the project itself.
Thank you, Megan, and good evening, members of the Citizens Advisory Committee. So I'm Anna Marie, Multimedia Communications Specialist, and I'm going to give you a presentation on the new website now that we've launched. We came to you in September, I believe. It was in the fall, for like a midway update on the project. So now, thank you. I'll say, just to start off, thank you so much for the feedback that you all provided during that presentation, because it really helped us get across this finish line in the last few months. So now that the site's been live for a little over a month, I'm really happy to present the new site to you and kind of go over some of our key successes and highlights and takeaways from the project. And of course, if you want to ask questions, we have time at the end, or if something's really urgent, feel free to just shout it out or raise your hand. Okay, so just really quick background. I shared this slide minus some updates back in the fall. But just to give you some context of where we were coming from and why we even wanted to do the new update. Our old website was really, it was built on a kind of archaic and really specific platform that made it really hard to have flexibility with the vendors, have flexibility with updates, and really it made even small updates kind of expensive sometimes and really time consuming. So in early 2024, with that knowledge and then based on a user experience audit we did the year before, we went out to RFP for a new website vendor. And really the due diligence we did during that project or that process resulted in awarding the contract to Rooted, who we loved working with and we're going to continue working with. And then December, we officially launched the site just before Christmas. We are still thinking of it as a soft launch. Even though the site is fully live, anyone can go onto it. We haven't done any extensive comms rollout or really heavy promotions yet, which is great. It's kind of a soft launch. It's a time to get even more feedback and quality assurance as it's like out in the wild before, again, we do that major communications push. So again, wanted to thank you for your feedback back in the fall. And hopefully you'll see maybe some of your recommendations come across in the new site. So just jumping into it, I'll go somewhat briefly over these because I know I touched on some of it in the fall. But our navigation got a really big refresh. Previously, our website had kind of a confusing navigation and structure. There were somewhat multiple categories that could say the same thing. For example, you can kind of see on the top, our work and programs and public information and about us have a similar feel. We saw in our user experience audit that people were confused by that. There were things like the search bar gets lost on that top. It's like way up in the top. Anyway, so some of these going through a really cool refresh, consolidated things, made it more concise, made sure our important information was first, brought that search bar back down to the main nav. And all of this we really did through, again, that data-driven information from the UX audit, but then also from a lot of internal communications and interdepartmental feedback and work from the very beginning. That being said, with the navigation and just the homepage and the website as a whole, we did keep what we liked and what our users liked. So that overall look and feel, that really warm, inviting, image-rich, doesn't really look like what you would think of as a traditional kind of boring government site. So we kept it modern and updated. So moving along to preserves, we saw time and time again through different audits and different studies, little studies we've conducted, that analytics have always shown us that visiting the preserves, the open space preserve web pages, are one of the top reasons that people come to the site. So we really wanted to dedicate a lot of time to giving these a really nice refresh. Now we have our most important information at the top of the page, things like hours, the map, notices or alerts. Whereas before, some of that information even got lost on those really important pages. Then as you go down the page, you can get more into the background of the site, history, funding, things that aren't maybe essential for a first visit, but if people want to continue learning more about each preserve, they can do so. We had the opportunity to add lots more imagery and videos. That was feedback we got with our old site, where the preserve pages only had a few small images. And if you can imagine, for someone that has never visited, that's not a lot to go off of. So now we've added even more images. The way that our new site is built, we're kind of, we're not limited anymore by the template. We can use as many images as we want. We've included these short, about 1 minute videos about each preserve. They're kind of like a little promo, a little almost touristy video about each of them, to really make people feel comfortable before visiting. And then on top of that, we've connected our events page onto this. So now the locations on the events, and I'll get into the events page in a little bit, are connected to each preserve. So if you go to the Sierra Vista preserve page and you scroll down, you'll then be connected to upcoming events that are happening at that preserve. Again, just to make things really cohesive and integrated throughout the site. Something that I'm really excited about is how much more accessible and inclusive this new site is compared to our old one, both on the very technical idea of accessibility. For example, our fonts, our colors are now accessible in a way that they weren't as compliant before. Alt text isn't on all the photos, whereas in the old site there were missing photos that didn't have that, which makes it hard for people who use a screen reader to even know what's going on the page. We're keeping our accessibility widget, which was on our old site. It was a little bit of a newish addition, but of course it's now on the new site. It's this purple person. It basically lets people adjust the site to increase font sizes, etc. Again, just to make it work for them. Another thing that I'm really excited about for accessibility is it's now finally a translatable site. So we have this little translation button in the top right of the navigation. So we have the site translated into Spanish, or the option Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Filipino, and Hindi. It's a hybrid of auto translation. We're using G-Translate, so it auto-translates, but having this account allows us to go in and make manual updates to the translations if they're not completely accurate. So we're excited about that, and we're in the process actually right now of doing some multilingual user testing. So people that speak those languages are going to be going through the site and identifying places where we can make the translations a little more accurate. And then finally, redoing the site gave us just an even, it just gave us a great opportunity to look at it through that JEDIA lens: justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and access, or accessibility. So we started completely fresh with imagery and really were intentional about including photos and videos of people from all different backgrounds and abilities, and really making it just an inclusive space for everyone. We also created a completely new page called New Visitors. It's that screenshot in the middle. So really welcoming people that are completely new to nature, to open space, and to our preserves. It has lots of resources for people to feel comfortable and excited about visiting nature. And then we still have our Moncito plugin, which continuously runs accessibility checks on the site. So it lets us know whenever there's something that's not accessible or a bug so that we can go in and fix that and make sure we're just making improvements always. So I mentioned the events section. And again, this is one I went over in the fall, so I'll make it kind of a quick little recap. But basically, our whole events page has changed. So now we have much more flexibility and control over the events that are shown. We've added filters so people can filter by the preserve, by the category, whether it's on a weekend or a weekday, really just making it so much more user-friendly. And also now we're including all types of events. So before it was just pretty much just docent-led events, but now on the events page, it's meetings like this one, it's public meetings, it's virtual events, it's volunteer projects, anything where the public might interact with us is now included on this page. Our resource library. So this is a good case study of something that came out of us doing that really intensive strategizing internally before making big decisions about the new site. So initially, the old resource library, it was really long. There weren't any filters. It was basically just lists of linked document under categories where you kind of had to know what category you were looking for, and then things showed up in different places. So it was kind of a big headache. And we'd even thought about potentially getting rid of the resource library, but through a bunch of staff input and then also input from the board and the CAC, we realized how important this tool was really internally. People go there to check reports, to look at the staff handbook, to look at the different policies. So we decided it really just needed a good refresh. So now, again, there's filters like the events section, so people can search by the topic, by the type. Is it a report or is it an impact, year in review? You know, all those type of categories that people might use to actually to find what they're looking for. And then on top of that, there's a keyword search. So if you don't even know what type of what category it belongs to, but you know the name, you can find it. We also have thumbnails. I know I'm a very visual person. Sometimes I don't even know the official name of a document, but I know what the cover looks like, so I can just scroll until I find it. Additionally, so funding, this was from board/CAC/EPOC feedback we landed on this page. On our old website, we had a financials page and then also an investing in nature page. But through feedback, we decided to combine those two because they do talk about really similar things. So the new funding page has, as you can imagine, information about funding measures and mechanisms, so our measures, and then District 1 and also donations. It also has the financial documents for transparency, and then it talks about investing in nature. And the cool thing about this page is so many other pages on the site link to it. So I've mentioned briefly before that like the preserves have a funding section that links to this. Any public access project where, of course, we're getting funding from grants and donations, that also links to this. Our land protection page links to this. So it's really getting people back to this page and really just emphasizing that idea of investing in nature monetarily. The press room, this is something we're pretty excited about in communications. We didn't have one before, but it really does just elevate our face and our legitimacy as an agency that is newsworthy. We have a press contact. We're mentioned in the news. So that's where all of this lands. It's a place where people from the media can get in touch with us. You can see our latest newsletter and things like I mentioned, like when we've been mentioned in the Mercury News or the Chronicle, or where have you. And then it's also just a place for things like media advisories and press releases. And lastly, there's many, I could go on for a long time about the improvements and updates. This has been a year-long process, but just to call out some other ones, the reports and studies that I mentioned before, we're more prominently highlighting them throughout the site. And again, just tying them into all that content. So things like the ag plan, I'm blanking, Healthy Lands, Healthy Economies, the Green Santa Clara Valley Green Print. They're mentioned throughout the site. So really, again, just emphasizing where we're coming from with our work and this very science-backed element of our mission. Our blog, I won't go too deep into this, but our blog is now fully linked on the back end of the site with Drupal. Drupal is where we built the site. Previously, our blog was actually hosted through HubSpot and kind of connected to the site, but there was some lack of consistency. So now it's all in the same place, which makes things easier for us to update and then better for the visitor to experience. Our history page has gotten a whole facelift. So now we have these pretty cool interactive timelines where we can include things like, I have a screenshot at the bottom, clippings from our agency's history, which I think is really interesting. Our grants page is a lot more intuitive and easier for both potential grantees and just members of the public to navigate. And then on top of that, the whole site is just 1,000 times easier to update and edit. I can't talk about that enough, how just in the past month, the different experience it's been compared to the old site, which again, I'd been working on for 6 years. So I knew that site pretty well. And to say that just a month of this has been better, it's saying a lot. And there's more. I hope all of you have gotten the chance to look at the site. And if not, it's open, it's launched. So yeah, feel free to go through and just check it out. So key takeaways. Overall, it was a really successful, it was a work plan project. So from start to finish, we had a successful RFP process that landed us this great vendor who we're going to continue working with as our maintenance vendor. We did stay within budget and completed the work plan project on schedule. Very nicely, literally January 2024 to December 2024, full year project. And as I mentioned before, the new site is really just going to facilitate such a higher level of work from us. We're going to be able to reach new audiences and stakeholders. The efficiency, like I mentioned before, for staff is just so much more improved. Not only is it easier for staff to work on it, but now more staff can work on it just because it's a more intuitive platform. I feel so much more comfortable training people on this site than the previous one. So that's been great. And so as you can imagine, the cost savings are going to continue to be really positive, not just because it's more efficient. Now there's more people working on it, but also just very specifically, our maintenance plan with this new vendor is less expensive than our previous one. Oh, and I should mention, we're happy to report no public inquiries at this point with any negative feedback about the site. Again, it's been live for a little over a month, but no one has reached out to say, what did you do to the old site? Or I can't find this. So that's, for us at this point, good news. No news is good news. And then once we roll out the comms, the actual ta-da, we did it, that'll be a little bit another opportunity for that. So really going nicely into this, looking ahead, we're going to be promoting the new website more broadly, probably in the next 1 to 3 months. We are already directing people to the new site just with our ongoing, somewhat unrelated campaigns. For example, we have one about Lunar New Year going out. We just launched our 2024 impact report. And of course, that's linking to the new site. And I can say, just being on the back end and checking out the analytics, people are visiting the new site. But again, the next 1 to 3 months are going to be a little more specific, check out our new site. This is, we're looking for people to go and give us feedback and see what they like and what they would like to see even more improvements on. As I mentioned, we're now moving into our maintenance phase with Rooted. So they have a really cool focus on what they call incremental improvement. So it's this ongoing data-driven improvement. So we're always looking on ways we can make the site better, thinking about the site in, what did they say? They said decades, not years, which is really exciting. Again, knowing that we've invested in this site that's going to serve us for a really long time. And then making sure that all of the investment of the site is really driving our goals for the organization. So as always, there's always opportunities for feedback and growth. As I mentioned before, we're always so happy to get feedback from you all in the Citizens Advisory Committee. You always have really good things to think about or suggestions. So my inbox is always open. You can always contact me or Charlotte, or just info@, or whatever it is, whatever is your best way to get in touch with us. We're always happy to hear your feedback, and we hope you continue giving it to us. On that note, the next 3 to 6 months are going to be some of the most important for the site and for improvements because the launch is still fresh in our minds, but it's also the great time to catch little bugs or just, again, ways to make it even more of a success. So with that, if there are any questions or feedback, I'm happy to take them now.
I'll open up for questions.
Thanks, that was a great presentation. 2 questions. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Lots of questions. 2 questions. One, what is the best way to get you feedback if we're seeing opportunities or bugs? And the other is, given the reorganization of the site and some of the new pages, where do you expect the data to show? Like, what are you expecting to see in terms of changes? Not just increased volume at the site overall, but things like time spent on the pages, time spent in different ways than it was before. Like, what are some of your expectations or hopes about what you'll see in the data?
Through the chair. Yeah, couple great questions. So in terms of just getting in contact with us, you can always just email me. I can apolon@openspaceauthority.org. Again, you could email anyone on the staff and they'll get you to me. I'm always happy if it's, for those little quick suggestions, feel free to just email me. But if it's something more, I'm happy to schedule a call. I sometimes find that that's so much more, that's just a better way to get feedback to me. And then, so looking at how we're going to measure success moving forward, I would love to do a follow-up user experience audit because like you mentioned, some of those quantitative, like just volume, that's great to look at, but I really want to see the more qualitative feedback. So we did the user experience audit in 2023. I would love in 2026 maybe to do another pretty thorough one and see especially some of those points that were pointed out to us in that audit, some of those opportunities for growth or just weaknesses of the site. Let's actually look at those and see if people are noticing a big difference. And then, with some of the more quantitative data, I would love to look at, like you mentioned, some of the more nitty gritty stats of like time spent on the page, entries and exits. There's a lot of opportunities there to see the pathways that people are taking through the site. That's a little bit deeper than just how many people are on it. So lots, not a short answer for that, but there's a lot of different ways that I'm hoping to track the progress.
Thank you, Raj.
Jeff.
Happy New Year to all. I have a couple of questions. And my first question will be auto translation. Any Indian language included in auto translation or not?
Through the chair. Yes, so Hindi is right now Hindi is included in the translation, so that is an option. We're also happy, like it's not something that we're limited to. We wanted to start with less, but it's something that we'd love to explore adding more languages to it.
Hindi is okay.
Okay.
And the other question is on financial documents we are putting on there. What kind of contents we put in financial documents? Is a balance sheet, profit and loss, or revenue and expenditure account? What we put in financial documents over there?
Through the chair. So I believe someone on our administration team could answer that better. But I will say that I know off the top of my head, we include our audits. I can pull it up right now.
Oh, okay, audit report.
Yeah, the audits for sure.
It's a financial audit or compliance audit? Which audit report?
Both?
Or both?
Through the chair, is an independent financial audit.
It's a financial.
Okay.
We also have our budget, our expenditure plan. We have an expenditure plan oversight committee that checks how we're spending the money from our expenditure plans. That financial report is also available.
It will be last question. And third question, like we have a new website. Is there any cost benefit analysis was done before that or no?
Through the chair. I wouldn't say there was an official document per se, but we definitely compared how much we're paying, for example, for maintenance compared to the new vendor, how much time I'm spending making minor updates, how much time and money we're spending asking our vendor to make updates that we could just make in-house. So there was a lot of that considered. I can't provide you just like one resource, but it was definitely, that was a big reason why we did this project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe, and then Lonnie.
Just a quick question. You mentioned about, how much time people are gonna be on whatever web page and things like that. Are you also counting how many people are on the website itself?
Through the chair. Yes, so we use Google Analytics, which basically does all of that for us. So we can check, we can pull up a report, how many people were on it today, how many people have been on it total of, the last X number of days, last months, compare it with the previous period. We can look at specific pages, we can look at the full site. So yeah, we have a lot more data than honestly anyone probably knows what to do with, but yeah, we've got it.
Great, thank you. And I have been on the website and it does look really good. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Bonnie, and then I will have a question.
Hi, thank you. So my question, I have a couple of questions actually. Now that you've built it, people will come, right?
Hopefully.
That whole deal, but are there strategies now being put into place for the year? Are there marketing strategies that we're gonna start seeing now that it's been built and we're seeing that it's gonna be a functioning site? Are you trying to drive traffic to specific areas now? Because yeah, you can let the people kind of roam free, but
Mhm.
are there gonna be specific strategies for the year? Yes.
Through the chair. So for just the overall launch, I'm still fleshing out the details of that campaign, small C campaign. It's probably going to be pretty organic though, and that is just because that's just generally driving people to the site and actually asking for feedback. So that'll be honestly probably a smaller scale push. That being said, some things like specific pages like the new visitors page, like I'm really excited to be pushing that out more. Maybe it's one-off posts, maybe it's inclusions in the newsletter. So there's some of those pages where, again, the fuller year is still coming together, but we will be pushing people to specific pages. Same with the preserve page. Before, for example, we would post on our social media, like when there was an alert or a closure, but oftentimes didn't even like sending people to the website, even though we did keep it updated because it was confusing. But now if there's an alert or a closure, just reminding people, hey, every time you're going to go out to the preserve, check out this page. It'll have everything. It'll be up to date. It'll be easy to follow. And then I will say the last thing is for our bigger projects like CV Camp, some of those public access projects that are really gaining momentum right now. All of those pages are much more updated. So whenever we're promoting those projects, we'll be able to direct people to a really easy to use and easy to explore site.
Awesome. That kind of led me to the social question because there was that kind of, you and people who are on social and we get information only that way versus wanting to go to the site. Are you going to do any kind of additions maybe this year to include more social onto the website? There's that, and it depends, how far do you go? Is it a visual thing? Is it just, do you make it obvious that yes, check out our social channels? So is that a discussion or what?
Through the chair. It's not an extensive discussion at this point. When we were first building the site, I think like the best example is something I was thinking of, and you've probably all seen this before, is when someone's Instagram grid is on their site, like it's an embedded feature. So I'd thought about that. At this point, I will say the voice and the messaging of our social media is so distinct, whereas our website is it's the broadest audience. It's a little more, I'll say sometimes our social media is a little more casual, a little more silly even. So for the most part, we're keeping them somewhat separate. Of course, you can always, you can get to one from the other, but we don't have a ton of ideas yet about maybe more like cross linking or even crossover, but I'm adding that to my list because I think it's something that we should think about more.
Okay, that'd be amazing. Last thing for me, can people save events to their calendars from the events page? Does it?
Through the chair, I do not believe so at this point.
Like,
You would be like.
Yeah.
Calendar it, or it's like reminder to yourself, regardless of whether you're on.
Yes, that's a really good point. So I will say the thing about our events page is to make it as flexible as possible, because you all know we host events through Eventbrite, through Zoom if it's a virtual event. Some events you don't even need to register, et cetera, et cetera. So our site is not an event registration platform. It's still linking people out to the correct registry, whether it be Eventbrite. Yeah. So yeah, right now there's no capability to save events to calendars. I think that would still be through the registration platform, but that's a cool thing to think about too. And I think our web developers would think that was cool.
Thank you. Thank you for the great presentation. I had a couple questions. I heard you use the word Drupal, so that's your industry platform that you're using here. And then how many of your employees are trained on the Drupal site? I'm just asking because we use it at Valley Water as well too.
Great.
It's what my interns use to update our website. And as someone who just went through doing a website, kudos to this because this is really, really great. So how many people are being trained on using Drupal, and how much staff time will this new platform save you?
Through the chair.
Yes.
Let me, off the top of my head, we got 1, 2, me, 2 others, our communications team, so Charlotte and Avery. So we're up to almost a little less than 10, I think. I think more. I think there will be more. There's of course always the balance of, we don't want everyone on the site making updates. It's nice to have a catch on that. But I'm assuming when I'm like in my head thinking of who needs to still get trained. I'm thinking it'll be about 10 compared to technically several of us had logins, but it was mostly me and Charlotte making updates. So big increase. And how many hours it'll save. That's really hard to say. I think I'll know a bit more like in a couple of months just to compare. But I also think of it's not just the hours of, it takes me half as long to make a little update. But again, with our old site on this unconventional CMS platform, little updates, we had to go to our web developer. So there's the time of like emailing them, waiting them to get back to us, having a meeting with them, giving them the okay, the money to them to do it, versus like that could be done in an hour because I just make a little update to the template. So like that's the bigger, I think like the even bigger picture cost and time savings. Yeah.
Yes. An agency would make frequently updates to websites. It's nice that staff has that availability to do it in-house.
Yeah.
And on time. One of the things I've been exploring, I love it. I think it's great. I love all the accordion drop downs that you're adding. I think the color schemes are popping. Definitely has that on trend look and feel. My one feedback is that for the preserves, I see that they have the preserve links at the bottom of the paragraphs about the preserves. If you can make those pictures also clickable, so that way they're accessible on your phones. I think you'll have multi-generational users on your platform, and so having the accessibility for the photo clicks, similar to how you do for what you can do at the preserves and different activities, you click those photos and it takes you to those activities. Same thing, click those photos. Not everyone is reading all the way to the end of the paragraphs, or can also see the blue link on the phone aspect as well too. Those are my only 2 feedbacks. Great.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful.
Lonnie says connecting your LinkedIn. I'm sorry, not your LinkedIn, your Instagram
Oh, yeah.
to your socials to the page as well might also help to attract more multi-generational users, since it kind of does feel like those are 2 separate platforms, like you said, but you have so much great content on your Instagram pages and they're so on trend. So it might be kind of cool to introduce people both ways, right to your Instagram and then also to your website.
Great, thank you.
And if you want to do something really fun for a website launch, you could do a web quest where you ask people to peruse your web page to find information. It's like a contest. And then they're going through your web pages, they're trying to answer questions, they're giving you feedback, and you choose some winners and they get a shirt or a jacket or some swag.
Love that.
But it's a great way to introduce people and classrooms to your web pages as well.
Thank you so much. It sounds like even like a mini UX audit right there. So I think that's awesome. I've circled it, underlined it, WebQuest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any public comments?
If any members of the public joining us via Zoom would like to comment on this item, you can hit *9 to raise your hand. There are none.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. Where are we? We did the board, we did the minutes, committee business. Okay, are we on to committee business? Just kidding. I'll just read what you have up here from now on and not try to act like I know what's happening right now for this first meeting. Okay, so we are now going to receive a presentation on legislative and external affairs from Mark Landgraf, but it's not Mark Landgraf.
Exactly. Yes, good evening. Megan Dreger, Conservation and Strategic Partnerships Manager. And as you say, Mark is unfortunately not able to be here tonight, so I'm going to try to cover both pieces. So bear with me. I'm going to read some portions from his notes. So first, there we go. Just quickly tonight, I wanted to talk about external funding as well as intergovernmental relations. Going to talk about what those are, a little bit looking back at 2024 and what happened, and then looking ahead to 2025 with our priorities. So first, intergovernmental relations, we have several areas that we really focus on under that umbrella. One is external funding. They're very closely linked. Why our grant staff, for example, have always worked really closely with our intergovernmental relations staff, because so much funding is public funding. But other areas are relationship building. That's always a big focus, and I'll talk more about that with newly elected officials and so on. Collaboratives, and that's many different collaboratives at the, for example, regional level or on certain subjects. We participate in many of those. And policy is another just broad bucket of focus area that we work on. And this is at all levels: local, regional, state, and federal. Oh, sorry. I never put automations in my PowerPoint, so when you use someone else's, it's not clicking through fast enough. So with this, a quick sort of metaphor we like to talk about with grants and intergovernmental relations is sort of this iceberg where there's just that little bit above the water that you can see that's the most visible. And that's kind of the headlines, the grant award or the policy passed, whatever the thing is. But that under the water, much less visible, is really where most of the work is. And that is many meetings, hosting lots of tours, comment letters, tracking policies, budgets, participating in all kinds of meetings, and as I said, really focusing on that relationship building. For 2024, looking back, some of the policy highlights: the passage of Prop 4, the climate bond, of course, was huge. And if I forget to mention it later, let's just say it now, that we have already started working with Coastal Conservancy on some of the funding planning for the funds that come to us for the Coyote Valley Conservation Program. So definitely a focus looking ahead too. The passage of 1889, the Freedom to Roam Act, and that requires local governments to incorporate wildlife connectivity into the conservation element of their general plans. We hosted a virtual climate bond listening session, trips to Sacramento and Washington, D.C., as well as all those many tours and site visits that I mentioned. One policy highlight to pull out separately was AB 2682, which was amending our Enabling Act. This was authored by Assembly Member Ash Kalra, and this bill amends the Authorities Enabling Act to allow us to purchase property from willing sellers in the lands east of Coyote Ridge, update contracting requirements for greater efficiency, allows the ability to create a community facilities district, and it also allows us to use senior and low-income exemptions in future funding measures. So that was a big one for us, that Enabling Act, getting that passed. Here is a comparison of the different calendars of local, in this case local, it's City of San Jose that's featured, state and federal calendars. And I won't go through this in as much detail as Mark might have, but really wanted to highlight some of the things that we're really looking at in terms of timing, and that is when budgets come out, because that's a lot of what we're looking at for funding for for ourselves, potentially for grants and that kind of thing, but also where the funding is going for areas of policy that we're tracking. So at the local level, June 17th is when we're looking for the final budget. At the state level, June 15th. And at the federal level, October 1st is, in theory, when that final federal budget would be finished. I have a few slides here with just some election results, and I'm not going to go through them in detail, but wanted to just flag that, of course, we had these big elections in November, and we have new members that we're reaching out to. So at the local level, here are some new folks, and we've kind of combined county, some cities and other local electeds here. At the state level, assembly district map on the right, and here's the Senate district with the new members, or the members listed there. And at the federal level, the same thing there. In all levels, just again, want to emphasize that we really work a lot on establishing relationships with our elected officials. And so after an election, we do try to meet with any, especially new members that weren't in office before, to work on that relationship, certainly continuing the relationship with previously elected officials as well. So sometimes we only get maybe 30 minutes with someone. So we try to really give high level what the Open Space Authority is doing, what we're interested in. We often have nice brochures, maps, and other things that we leave behind in case there are questions that we didn't quite get into. So that's a big focus area of this program, is that kind of continuing relationship. And I can talk more about that if there are questions. Turning to external funding, and this is specifically grants. So there are other sources of external funding, but this is the piece that's really the competitive grant, where you submit your application, it's reviewed and hopefully awarded. The Open Space Authority, going back to the beginning, we've gotten about $75 million in these competitive grants. And the chart on the left shows the division of where the funding comes from. So the 3 shades of green are the public levels, the gray that, now that I look at it, it's a little hard to see on the screen, but that's private sources. So really talking about the public sources right now. But you can see why we have worked so closely together, because 91% of that 75 million was from public sources at one level or another, with the vast majority being at the state level. These are just some logos of some of the folks that we've gotten funding from over the years, again, at these different levels. And I've been mentioning the relationships with elected officials. We similarly work on relationship with agency folks particularly at these funding agencies. Looking back at 2024, some internal updates. We had a new staff member added, Monica Nanez, our external funding coordinator. We're thrilled to have her on board. We've already gotten a few new grants I'll mention in a second. I was fortunate to be able to attend a week-long conservation finance boot camp training that was excellent. So I look forward to continue using the skills I learned there. New funding passed that I've already mentioned, that Prop 4, the climate bond, was a really big deal. And it included 25 million, specifically a line item for the Coyote Valley Conservation Program, as well as these new grants that are at the bottom there. We've got 4 new grants this year. One federal, one local, and that last one is supposed to say Cal OES, but I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure what CalOS is. But yeah, so we've been fortunate. And the last one, the cybersecurity one that's from Cal OES, it's actually FEMA money. And so that's a federal pass-through grant. And that one, I'd say in a way we're particularly excited about, because it's for normally our grants end up being for work like acquisitions and trail building and stuff, is where we do a lot of that focus. So it's kind of exciting to be able to have an administrative task that we were able to get a grant for this round. So those are the new grants, and those are added to the list of our previous public agency grants that we already had. You can see the top 5 or 6 or so we're in the process of closing out, getting the final payments. Those projects have either ended or are wrapping up now. So it's been a busy year in grants. Looking ahead to 2025 for proposed priorities, more on the policy and intergovernmental relations side. At the local level, we'll continue to Participate in regional working groups and collaboratives and so on, such as the Santa Clara County Climate Collaborative, Santa Clara Valley Urban Forestry Alliance, City of San Jose Community Forest Advisory Committee, as well as ongoing partnerships, including the Muwekma Ohlone Tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area, Amamutsan and Tamian Nation, with local public agencies and community-based organizations, all of whose goals and work overlap with the authority's mission. In terms of funding, we will be working on implementation of existing grants, as well as supporting city and county budget allocations and other investments in areas related to our mission. Under policy, we'll be promoting the City of San Jose natural and working lands element of the Climate Smart San Jose. Support implementation of existing policies and new policies to reinforce natural and working lands protection, especially regarding sprawl development. Support integration and of conservation and climate goals into regional and local planning for housing, renewable energy, infrastructure, and other community needs. And support and inform the development of the Santa Clara Valley Community Forest Plan through the Santa Clara Valley Urban Forestry Alliance. Promote implementation of the City of San Jose Community Forest Management Plan through the participation on the Community Forest Advisory Committee. And again, key relationships, again, ongoing working there. At the state level, we work with a Pacific Policy Group for consulting services in Sacramento, and they help us navigate some of the tricky, tracking so many things that are happening, that are going on. We continue to work on implementation of Prop 4 funding. As I mentioned, specifically, Coastal Conservancy is the agency that will be implementing our Coyote Valley Conservation Program funds. So we've been working with them on how that's going to work. Also, always looking for other funds, looking for funds in particular for sources that would support stewardship and maintenance. That's something that's really hard to find funding for, as well as manage existing grants. In policy, things to support the state's 30 by 30 initiative, natural and working lands, climate smart strategy, promoting wildlife connectivity, supports permit streamlining for restoration projects, collaborative and integrated policy development, regional open space districts. I won't go read every single thing on there, but various things that are at the state level that we're particularly looking for. And sorry, one particular thing calling out that we're closely following and considering expressing support for AB 303, which would return local control to communities in considering battery storage installations. The legislation is an immediate response to the recent battery fire in Moss Landing, and that the issue was highlighted by the OSA board members in last week's meeting. So that's one example at the state level. And finally, at the federal level, again, focused on funding. So that's our existing federal grants, which, by the way, with the change of administration, of course, we're looking for what the effects are going to be. You may have heard that there has the executive orders that were issued on the first day have put a freeze on some certain funding. So we're certainly keeping an eye on that because that could affect us and our future requests. So definitely keeping an eye out there. But our current federal funds come through a grant from Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, as well as FEMA, the one that was supposed to be Cal OES, but said CalOs. Those are our two federal pots right now, and we've been assured in both cases that it looks right now that those are safe, that they're not part of that freeze. These were already allocated. In the case of the HUD grant, we're already under a grant agreement, so it looks positive. At the federal level, but in general, the policy, aside from the funding related things, we are working on the Farm Bill, particularly changes that would authorize special districts such as ourselves to be eligible for certain grant funding. And then, as always, continuing those key relationships, meeting with the new folks, Sam Liccardo, for example, newly elected, be working on, as well as Jimmy Panetta and everybody else that we touch base with in Washington. So with that, any questions?
Yes, Justin?
It's mentioned that there was $5 million in grant funding for Mid-Coyote Valley acquisition. Any particular property that went towards or is going towards?
Yeah, it's three particular properties in the northern portion of Mid-Coyote Valley. I don't have a map in the slide deck with me right now, but The properties are called Fisher's Bend, Tavern, and Dong. And so those are things that are currently owned by Peninsula Open Space Trust and will be transferring to the authority, we're hoping, this spring.
Thank you, Stephen.
Could you help me understand, or try, the safety of the funds from Proposition 4?
Mhm.
I tried to figure it out and couldn't. I know it was a large proposition, 25 million was, say, earmarked for the OSA.
Yep.
Do we work through a grant? Are we proposing grant requests for that? And is that $25 million at risk? And how much time do we have to apply for it? And then how much time do we have to spend for it? Much like our own grant process.
Yeah. All great questions. And turns out I'm learning a lot about the way the bond process works at the state. And as we're trying to work with Coastal Conservancy, and they're trying to figure out the details too. So let's see if I can hit all of the answers here. Yes, 25 million is definitely in there. We have no expectation that would change. So we do expect that. There is a holdback from Coastal Conservancy, so we wouldn't get quite 25 million, but certainly a big chunk of that. They are individual grants. So while it's a guaranteed pot of funding, we still have to apply for each project, and the Coastal Conservancy has their own rules and process for how we do that. So we have to conform to that. And we've been talking with them about ways to possibly streamline that. Timing is the $1 million question. So, or the $25 million question in this case. So right now, of course, the state has to sell the bonds. And so we have to work with the Coastal Conservancy in advance to lay out over the course of years when we're going to need these different pots of money. So some of that is still in flux. We're working with them actively, talking about that. But for this first year, which is next fiscal year, the governor's current proposed budget includes $3 million for the Coyote Valley Conservation Program. So this is just a proposed budget. It won't be final until, late June, but we're hoping that that stays in there so that there is funding in this first year. After that, we also need to sort of regroup with the pace of our projects when we need the money so that we can work with the Coastal Conservancy to get it when we need it.
Thanks, Megan.
Yes. Thanks for that great information. I think I saw on one of the earlier slides that 91% of the funding comes from government entities, federal, state, and local. Given the new administration and a lot of the unknowns, are there conversations happening about changing the strategy around seeking external funding and maybe trying to look at more private sources of funding if we think some of the federal or even state funds might be at, grant programs might be at risk over the next few years?
Yeah, I'd say to a certain extent that's sort of always on the table where we're actively willing and able to pivot as needed, especially for grant funds where as budget cycles come and go, administrations come and go, it changes over time. So it's difficult to count on them very far in advance. So we're always shifting and looking for opportunities at any given time. So absolutely, we're revisiting that, working closely with our consultants, both in DC and in Sacramento for ways to do that. But again, it's somewhat difficult to plan very far in advance because we don't know what other funding sources are going to be out there yet. We hear rumors, we wait for them to be solidified, and then we start talking to folks. But it's very much on our minds. As you saw on that chart, we don't have a huge slice that's normally from the federal government. We were hoping to increase that. Not sure whether that will be successful in the coming years. But the state, of course, has other challenges that we'll be facing. So it's an ongoing conundrum, always looking. Yeah, but private is absolutely another place. And it also, just to clarify, these were the ones that are really what we think of as competitive grants. There is other private funding we're getting from partners where we go in together on projects, that kind of thing. That's not included in this chart. This chart is for really specifically grants.
Yes, Edward?
Thanks for all that great information, Megan. I'm a little confused on how does the Coastal Conservancy figure into that 25 million from Prop 4? how do they, it sounds like they control it in some way and that they're entitled to a portion of that?
Yeah, it's written into the bond itself. So the bond assigns the different pots of money to specific agencies. And in our case, our 25 million was assigned to the Coastal Conservancy, and the bond in general allows up to a 7% holdback for their administrative
I see.
costs. Yeah,
Thank you.
all written into the bond.
Are there any questions from the board? Advisory committee? Public comments?
If any of the members joining us via Zoom would like to comment on this item, you can hit *9 to raise your hand. There are none.
Great.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
that presentation. All right, we will now review the Citizens Advisory Committee's term expirations for 2025.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Caroline Hernandez, Clerk of the Board. This item is informational. It is to review and make the Citizens Advisory Committee members aware of the upcoming expiring terms in June 30th, 2025 for District 5, 6, and 7, and 4 at-large positions. So our district representatives who are nearing their term expiration are Lauren Lewis, District 5, our new CAC member, Lisana Dominguez, and Raj Banat. As well as our at-large representatives, Steve Mink, Mara Burton, our chair, Ed Von Rennen, and the current vacant position. And these seats are, the terms are for 2 years. So this previous term began July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2025. The next steps would be based off of our CAC handbook, the rules and the protocols in our CAC handbook. Staff will notify members 90 days in advance at minimum, which will put us somewhere in April, with the memo letting you know that your term is expiring, and members in good standing can request reappointment. So just a simple reply to the email letting me know that you would like to renew your appointment, and then staff will take that to the board in their their second meeting in June for final approval. And that is all. I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Yes, one question. Always with the questions. So for the vacant position, for example, how are we advertising and getting the word out about to the public who might be interested in that position?
Great question, actually. So we've advertised it on our website, in our preserves, and just recently it was picked up by the Mercury News that our agency was looking for volunteers. And the CAC and our expenditure plan were advertised as ways that members of the public could interact with us and become volunteers. So, and that's actually, I believe, how our current at-large applicant for that vacant position found us. So that was pretty exciting to see.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yes, thank you.
Wait, I'm sorry, are there public comments? I'm so sorry, hold on, just
Just a quick comment. I've really enjoyed my 6 years here at the CAC, but I've decided to not request reappointment. So I'm really excited that we have 2 at-large applicants for the one position, because I think there will soon be another position for at-large. So if you don't, whoever doesn't get picked, don't feel bad. Just enjoy a little time off.
It's a violin playing right now, so, well, that's somber news. I can't find a snappy segue, so I'll just read what's on the. So we just reviewed the Citizens Advisory, term expirations. Yeah. Well, I hope before Steve leaves, he brings us all honey. That would be sweet. Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to our informational report section.
Good evening, CAC members, Lee Rousher, Assistant General Manager. Just a couple of quick things for you. First, congratulations to Mira Lonnie and welcome to Lisana. We look forward, on behalf of OSA staff, look forward to supporting all three of you in your new roles. You saw earlier our comms team beautiful work on our website. If you haven't had a chance to go on the website, you may have also missed the 2024 impact report, which is also gorgeous. Take a look at that and see the highlights of our last year. To steal Joe's line, the best is yet to come. So watch out for 2025, but beautiful retrospective on the website. Also, it's available in 4 languages right now, so I want to share that with folks too. Looking ahead, staff is actively working on planning a joint board CAC meeting, which will probably be somewhere between the March and May timeframe. We're also going to dust off and polish up our OSA 101, kind of a primer for everybody on what we all do, that we hope to deliver during that joint meeting or sometime in the spring as well. And I think I will leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to hearing more about that in the future. Any other? Can we just go down the line?
Our board liaison is here.
Oh, thank you.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Kathy Sutherland, former CAC member, and I am now your board liaison, and I am so delighted. That happened at the meeting just last week. So because I'm new to this, I'm going to just kind of go over some highlights of the past 3 board meetings, if that's okay. The first thing I wanted to mention was that at the December 12th board meeting, there was a great tribute to Garnetta for all of her years of service to the organization. And I did want to give the shout out to Bob, Allison, and Gloria, who was a former CAC board member, Virginia, who was a former board member, Garnetta, and then Eric Carruthers, who's one of the founders, to say thank you for attending. It was very special, and Helen Chapman and trying to remember who else besides me. Helen Chapman and who else was sworn in at that meeting?
Director Kennedy.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, the 3 of you.
Yeah. So great meeting, great honoring of Garnetta. I think that those were the highlights from that meeting. And then from January 9th, new staff introductions. So there's an agricultural specialist, Anna Rigolardo. So she introduced herself to the board, and the education programs coordinator is Mel Sarmento, who actually comes from Guadalupe River Park Conservancy. And then the open space technician, Greg Rosselli. So it's really nice when people come and introduce themselves to the board members, just so you have a familiar face and you get to know a little bit of background information about them. Oh, and then there were elections at that meeting for the next board chair and vice chair, and Helen Chapman and Vicki Alexander will be continuing in those positions, which is great. And then finally, we have another meeting on the 23rd, and committee assignments were given out there, Lauren. And let me see. So I am coming back to the CAC as your liaison. And then there's the Land Use and Stewardship Committee, which will be directors Potter, Kennett, and myself. And then the Ad Hoc Committee for Financial Stability, which is myself, Director Potter, Director Chapman. And then the Admin and Budget Committee, and that will be Directors Chapman, Alexander, and Gill. So it looks like there's a lot of good things set up. And then we also received the presentation on the website, and appointed Lisana as the new representative to the CAC from District 6. Think so. Any questions? And is this information that you find helpful? Because I'm willing to take any kind of input from you all. So please consider it. Send me a note, or let me know if you have any questions. No? Okay.
Thank you for that wonderful report and congratulations on being on the other side of the tables, I guess. And we look forward to having you report out to us during our meetings as well.
It's a little different. And then I will also report back to the board on your conversations. So that's good too.
Updates from committee members. Would you like to go around the table? There you go.
Sure, I'll start it, why not? There again, Joe Henwood. To remember this second meeting now, Trail Masters, taking that into account. Been working on the trail a lot. Last weekend, we did something called Operation Bobcat at Sierra Vista. And the main reason for that, as I found out, well, a little history because I talked with one of the techs there, Lucy, 2 weeks before that, saying that they needed help directing the people to stay on the trail. Because now that it's Bobcat season, there's more people out there off the trail trying to get pictures of that. By doing that, I worked the Saturday and Sunday, and it was more or less, I did interact with some people, letting them know that it was for their safety to get back on the trail. Trying not to be too much like a police officer, and at the same time be courteous, have my vest on, of course. And you couldn't miss me. I had the name tag on there, and it was very interesting to interact with them because they wanted to do what they were doing and yet to be polite enough to tell them to get back on the trail. So it was a learning experience that way. Trail Master is doing some trail trending and going to be doing that again the 30th. And so far, I'm just working it, getting used to the idea of working with the public. And the hardest thing is for me to actually take a breath, calm down, introduce myself, let them know that, they're not doing anything wrong, just there's another way to do things. So by doing that, I'm getting more and more familiar with the operation and the people out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds very exciting on trails. I'm one of the people who would probably off trail looking out for a bobcat picture, even though the coyotes are walking around my neighborhood. Do you want to keep going down the line? Edward, do you have any updates?
Nope. Anything new to report?
One update, just I'm planting a seed. I'm that's the update. That's the update. I'm recertifying my wilderness medicine training this year. And it got me thinking and wondering if we had ever offered any sort of backcountry wilderness first aid through the open space for people who might be interested in, if you're within, 3 hours of emergency medical care, what are some of the things, stabilizing a fracture, those sorts of things. And if we haven't done it, is it something we might be interested in? Because I think it's relevant to us all spending time in nature and out in our preserves. So I'll come back after I recertify and would be happy to talk through ideas if that's something that's of interest to figure out how to make that happen.
I second that. I'll go last. So Bonnie, do you have anything? Ms. Lima, I think now is the time to introduce yourself. Thanks.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to join this committee, and I wanted to share a little bit about myself. I'm born and raised San Jose. I grew up seeing the Elm Rock Hills, seeing the preserve just right behind my home, and so I know that it serves as a place for a lot of our community to gather, and an equitable place for our community to gather. And so I'm very fond of the accessibility of it, and really grateful and excited to be in this position, to be able to serve any capacity that you need me to serve, and willing to share the knowledge that I have in my nonprofit work and my advocacy work in this capacity. And I think I just want to make a plug that one of my favorite teachers and professors was Julie Phillips out of De Anza College, who really taught me to really love the environment and love open space. So adding that there. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chair.
Thank you for joining us. Raj?
Yesterday, we celebrated the Republic Day of India in Milpitas at India Community Center. And 26 elected officials joined that, including Rokhanna, Ash Kalra, Raj Silvan, Fremont Mayor, Otto Lee, County Supervisor, and so many mayors from different cities. More than around 700 people attended, free lunch was served, and we enjoyed that. And next time we will invite you all to attend it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raj. Baston?
Just a couple things. Next month, I will be taking over again as president of the Cattlemen's Association. And then also, Allison asked me about visiting with her about grazing and ranching and what have you. And I know last fall, after our ag tour, there was interest both from the board and the committee to do more of a grazing oriented field day. So maybe we can figure out something for this spring. Okay. That's it.
Sounds like fun. Yes. Hi, Lauren. Yeah, why are you over there?
Okay, so on January, on many years, but not all years, this meeting lands at the same time as the Valley Water Environmental Water Resource Committee meeting. I've been on that committee longer, and it starts a half an hour earlier, so it just seems natural that, yeah. So sorry for not making most of today's meeting and not being part of the role. I did want to report back that we had a Hike Your Pie Off and Run the Ridge event the day after Thanksgiving, which was between now and the last time I saw you. Terry headed up the Hike Your Pie Off part, which got a much better showing, but we did have a handful of folks that showed up to Run the Ridge. We got perfect weather, and it does kind of seem like a good transition. I know that's going to be a hot spot in the coming months. We had a little early rain, and we got a lot of bright sun now. If we're lucky with some rain in the coming weeks, we should have an amazing wildflower season, and I'm sure we're going to need the help of each other to keep Joe from tackling anybody in the grass. That's all. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Lauren. I am very familiar with the Valley Water meetings, and they probably say it as well. So just to piggyback on what Lauren did say about Hike Your Pie Off, I did attend the second Hike Your Pie Off event on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve day, or one of those days. They're very cold outside in Rancho Canada Oro with No Worries Amigo. It has been wonderful to be hiking with them and just getting more people out into the preserves. So I do want to thank the, I guess, the board and the Citizens Advisory Committee for being so open to collaborating with Open Space Authority so we can get more people hiking in the trails. And just to do a quick plug on February 9th, so I know it's also Super Bowl Sunday, but if you would like to hike Lexington Reservoir, which is a valley water reservoir, and also a part of Open Space Authority, we are doing a hike with No Worries Amigo around Lexington Reservoir Loop. So it will be a loop and it's considered to be a moderate hike. So looking forward to that. And so thank you. I just want to continue to plug that. And as your chair, I am more dedicated to get out in those hikes more as well to meet more people and talk more about the wonderful things that we do here.
How far is it?
The Lexington Reservoir Loop, I think, I want to say it's about 5 miles total, but don't quote me on that. Okay, I'm trying, either 5 or 2.5, my data is not recalling right now, but it's a beautiful place and it actually has water and it's gorgeous back there, so.
And what time is it? Because is it gonna conflict with the game?
That's another great question. I feel like the hike is starting at 9 a.m. If the game starts later, you might be able to be done just enough to go watch the kickoff. Not a football thing. All right, are there any other updates from the committee? Okay, I'm gonna keep looking to the PowerPoint screen for what to do next. Oh, we did have, are you speaking? Did you want to? No? Okay, she's just here. Sorry. I was like, I want to give everyone a chance to speak. All right, if that's the case, then I'm going to join the meeting at 7:56. Thank you so much. And I promise next time it will be a lot smoother.